Okay, so today we are going to be discussing The Dragon Prince Season 1, my thoughts as I watched through it. And oh my goodness, did I enjoy this first season of this show. So I know that this is by the same people who wrote Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is why so many people have recommended this to me so much. And I was really hesitant to start it. I actually took a long time to start this because, I don't know, I was a little bit burnt out after Korra. But oh my goodness, it was so good. I had a really hard time separating Korra from Avatar because it is a sequel and because Korra kept reminding me that it was a sequel. So it was really hard to view one without the other. I don't feel this way with The Dragon Prince because had I not known that it was the same writers, there would be no way for me to compare the two. It's a completely different world. Actually, that's not true. Sokka's here. It's a completely different world. It's a completely different cast of characters. There's no reminders of Avatar at all, except that Sokka's voice actor is the lead voice actor in this show, which I'm not mad about. Sokka is one of my top 3 characters in Avatar, so having his voice back, it did what they intended for it to do. It instantly made me attached. But minus that little trick they played on my emotions, this show stands up so well on its own. Visually, it's gorgeous. I typically don't enjoy the whole, let me tell you a story before I start telling you a story. Here's a summary of world building and history so that you can have some establishment so that it's easy for me to start the story. I typically don't enjoy that kind of formatting to begin things, even though a lot of shows and movies tend to begin things that way. I actually really enjoyed this one because I'm a big world building person, and the world they built and the history they explored was really cool, and I was into it. They did a great job of establishing stakes and emotions right from the start when Sokka— oh no, this is gonna be a problem. Let me look up his name real quick. I'm terrible with remembering names, and I don't want to call him Sokka. Callum. When Callum is talking to his stepdad, and his stepdad gives him that letter of things that he needs to know, which he promptly lost, and Callum responds, I'm gonna give this back to you, okay? And that determination, which carries through with Callum, he has— I love his character so much already. I didn't write very many notes for this, so this is gonna be a bit of just a messy gush. I hope you don't mind. He has this ability to make decisions in his head and decide, nope, this is what I'm sticking with, and then he just runs at it, essentially. And sometimes that's a good thing for him and sometimes that's a bad thing for him, but I love it about him, maybe because that's a lot how I am. I'm a pretty determined person that makes decisions and goes, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But I love that characteristic in him, and that was the first moment we saw it, and I love that they introduced that characteristic in him in such an emotional way. Since I'm talking about Callum, I guess I'll just continue talking about all the characters. I forgot to mention this is a spoiler-filled video. This is going to be a discussion / gush. So my thoughts at the beginning of the video of, oh my goodness, I loved this, that's my spoiler-free thoughts. Continuing on with spoilers. Callum is a lead that I am loving. Not only that, but his determination and loyalty to his brother, his focus on doing what's right, which is, of course, you know, your standard lead characteristic, but paired with Sokka's voice, as well as I think the humor in this show is just on point. I love the humor in this show, and it balances out the darker tones really, really well. And of course, Callum is a lot of that humor, and it's great. Ezran is a character that I really like the start of. I am a big character person, whether I'm watching a show or reading a book. I'm very, very focused on characters. And Ezran is a character that I think we got a lot of ground laying, but we didn't get very much depth in him yet. He didn't have a lot of lines. He wasn't a big focus in this story, even though he is the blood heir to the throne, I assume. I mean, I know that he is biological son of the king. So assuming that this kingdom works in a similar fashion to how our world's kingdom works, he would be the heir to the throne, hey? Anyway, for what an important role he seems to play in this world, he did get very few lines, he did get very little focus, but the focus that we got on him, I really, really loved. He clearly has a lot of intuition. He's a very clever kid, just more, he easily falls into the background. The way he already knew the tunnels in the beginning and knew the rock, stone pattern, which is brilliant. That he could talk to animals, and every time he kind of got ignored or disregarded because of these abilities or because of this knowledge that he has, he got frustrated, but he kind of took it in stride and stuck with them. And I really love that personality of his. He clearly has a lot of abilities that we don't know because he's not the type of character that forces himself to the front, which is why I think that in later episodes we're going to get, or later seasons, we're going to get a lot of depth out of him, and he's going to start slowly moving to the forefront, and we're going to realize how incredibly valuable he is. We also had setup scenes for him, like when, not Sokka, his name is Callum, when Callum is doing that, is giving that plan when they're going up the mountain trying to fight creatures, and we have that scene where Ezran is holding up, he's gonna hold up the glow toad, and he's like, that means I basically do nothing. Scenes like that I feel like are great setup for the fact that he clearly has a lot of ability, he clearly has a lot of knowledge, but he oftentimes is kind of put in the background and put to the side, and he accepts it, but I really think that soon we're going to find that no, he needs to be in the forefront because he has a lot to him that we're just beginning to see. Rayla is our third main character, and she's probably the one that I have the least amount of feelings toward. I really like her, and again, we have a lot of base ground laying stuff. Right now, she's kind of a standard, like, assassin who is emotionally conflicted. The three definitely came together a little bit fast. They trusted each other a little bit quickly. With how few episodes we had, we didn't get to see them kind of conflict and not want to hand over trust as much as I would like. We obviously got some of it, but I definitely wanted more for such misfits to be able to meld really well together, but that's fine. In general, I really liked her character. I think that she's a good base, but I also think that she's kind of a stereotypical version of what her character would normally look like, so I'm excited to see more out of her. As a very character-focused person, naturally, this starts with characters, and I thought that it was good. I thought it was a really good beginning. I feel like with only 9 episodes in the first season, we got about as much out of them as we can have in such a short amount of time, but I'm really excited to see the depths of each of these characters because I'm attached to them, but I feel like that's only going to get better the more time I spend with them. Other elements of the story, like the world, I absolutely love. It's not only a really beautiful world, but it's such an intriguing story. I'm really into dragons right now, and this is definitely scratching that itch. I'm so excited to see more of them in the second season, which is obviously where this is going. I also just think that the cultures around the cultures that have been put into this world are really fascinating, and I'm excited to peel back those layers as well. The magic in this is really cool and surprisingly dark. This world in general is much darker than I expected it to go. I know Avatar had some darkness in it too, like we saw Aang's family and friends dead, there was genocide, and it was devastating for him. But somehow the darker themes seemed so much more impactful than it did in Avatar. And I know that this is also a kid's show. I actually watched Avatar with my son, who's 3. I was gonna watch this with him too, but then I thought, after watching Spirited Away with him and him having nightmares, I probably should start screening the things I watch first, and I'm glad I did, because there's a lot of scenes in here that would have freaked him out. But they are specifically playing with dark magic, so it makes sense that this would have darker tones. I mean, we actually, when we're waiting for the king to die, we saw Callum having to trip over dead bodies. Claudia, I'm pretty sure is her name, the evil guy's daughter, when she was releasing her smoke hellhound type things, that kind of magic is so interesting, but would definitely be spooky for a young kid. Then you also have scenes like that giant spider and like that person that was mummified and then turned to dust. Like, there are a lot of darker elements to the show that I ate up and that I was a little bit surprised were in a kid's show. But then there were other elements to this world that I really, really appreciated them putting in, like that their aunt was, okay, so I know she's mute. Is she deaf as well? Because I was a little bit confused about that because sometimes her interpreter would sign for her when her back was turned, and sometimes he didn't. So I didn't think she was deaf, but then sometimes she does look to him for translation or for interpretation. So I don't know if she's deaf as well or not. I guess I'll see. But that was something I was watching for because growing up, I had friends that were deaf and I learned sign language to be able to more easily communicate with them. And I loved that they actually used ASL in the show. I assumed that they would just make up their own signs because it's a magical fantasy world, but they actually took the time to either learn ASL or to bring someone in to have her use American Sign Language. And I loved that they actually took the time, took the attention to detail to use sign language while they're having her sign. I guess maybe it seems like a duh thing, but it's something that they didn't have to do and it's something that they chose to do, and I loved that. I also loved their attention to her signing, and while she was mourning, they took the time to let her fully sign out how she was feeling and what she wanted to say without any sort of translation. And I don't know, I just felt like that was it was a more impactful, meaningful moment because they did that. One thing that confused me at first, and I'm still not really sure, I don't know how this is gonna go, is in the bad guy, I don't know his name, the king's advisor or sorcerer, the sorcerer fella. His kids, Claudia and I don't know the brother's name, those two, I didn't initially expect them to be bad. So I was really confused when Callum came in to tell the king that the dragon egg was still here, and sorcerer guy stopped him and said, what makes you think the king doesn't already know that the dragon egg, that we still have it, and then told the guards to capture him, right? And the son, Claudia's brother, was right there the whole time, plus the guards. And it did confuse me as to why, when sorcerer guy was rushing the funeral and trying to take over, why nobody was responding with, hey, you have the dragon egg. I know, because I stood there while you admitted it. At first, I thought that son would be the one to do it because in the beginning when he was sword fighting with Callum and he like pretended to get stabbed so that Callum could impress Claudia, he seemed like a cool guy. I really liked that beginning for him. But then obviously it's established that he is kind of morally gray. So is Claudia, where they seem good, but they are loyal to their dad. I hope I'm recording audio. Good, I am. Which I think is a really interesting dynamic. I don't know how their story is gonna go because they're not just evil like their dad is, but they also are clearly willing to be at least pressured. They're willing to consider terrible acts at their dad's advice. I assume they're not gonna go totally bad and they're gonna be conflicted, much like Raylan, the elf, was when it was time for her to kill. But I'm very curious to see where their stories go. Regardless of that, I still wonder why the guards didn't say something when the sorcerer was trying to be a dictator. I am curious why they didn't say, hey, I was standing there when you mentioned that you actually stole the dragon egg. Prob's not a good guy. So I am curious about that, but he's obviously somebody who's going to take power however he wants it, so maybe they just knew that and didn't bother to say anything. There were a few other things that I could nitpick, like the fact that Ezran was underwater for a long time when he went after that dragon egg, and when he came up, he seemed relatively fine. I mean, he was up and walking, he had a cold that got healed with some berries, and that was basically it. And I feel like spending minutes underwater would kill you. Or at the very least give you severe frostbite that might like destroy you in some major ways. Plus, there were some other things that I didn't quite understand, and maybe that's my fault, maybe I just missed some stuff, but like when the dragon egg hatched, how did Ezra know that his glow toad had to lick the dragon's eyes open? That seemed like a random bit of knowledge that Ezran was just like, oh, I got this. And they knew the dragon's name. Maybe that was delivered to them. Maybe Elf Girl told them that at some point and I just missed it, but they knew the dragon's name right off. I assume I just missed something with that one, but that kind of surprised me. Oh, and the fact that the dragon was able to break off Rayla's bracelet so easily when even that sun dagger couldn't penetrate it, couldn't even tear it a little bit. So I don't know, maybe that'll be explained later on that dragons just have some sort of magical ability that can cut through anything. But that seemed so easy, like such an easy solution for something that was high stakes. Like I was wondering if she was gonna have an arm cut off in order to, you know, stop the pain. So I have those little nitpick things. Some of them I may have just like missed some tidbits of knowledge that were dropped in here and there. While we're talking about nitpicks, I guess I'll also mention the fact that I really don't like this animation style. It seems like an intentional choice. I believe that it was an intentional choice. I don't like it. It feels like a video game. Their features are really smooth. Their movements are quite jerky at times. It looks like a video game to me, and I don't understand why this was the animation style that they chose, but I've mostly gotten used to it, so oh well. It's not that important. But overall, the arching plot in this season was so much fun. I loved the high stakes beginning, that they found the egg, that they had to go on this journey, meeting characters along the way, telling way too many people that they had a dragon egg, but they're kids, having to go through this forest, this mountain of terrifying creatures was so fun. And then finding out that they were all just illusions and the way Ezran figured it out. And then the fact that the healer was an illusionist, which, by the way, I'm curious someday when I go back and rewatch season 1, I want to pay more attention because I used to have a 3-legged dog and she did not run like a normal dog or walk like a normal dog. And I didn't notice that little girl's wolf walking the way my dog used to walk. So I wonder if they did that very subtly, if they made the wolf kind of walk like a 3-legged dog would walk, like a 3-legged wolf would walk to compensate for not having a limb, or if they didn't do that. Because it would be really cool if they subtly put that in there to kind of give us the hints that this was an illusion the whole time. I didn't notice that. It seemed like the wolf was walking in a manner that a 3-legged wolf wouldn't walk. But I am curious to go back and watch and see if they did add that, because that would be such a cool little thing if they did add it. And then the storm that Callan created by smashing his orb that was so important to him, and the dragon was able to hatch, and then the season ended on a dragon baby. Oh, what a fantastic ending to the season. Once again, Callan is big on, let me just do something and not think real hard about it. Like when they were making up their plans and he was like, oh, I suddenly know the second half of this lightning spell. I'm gonna go for it. I'm not gonna test it out first. I'm gonna assume that our assumptions are correct and wait until a high stakes moment to test this out. Same with smashing the orb. He was like, I know what I have to do. And he smashes that orb and I was like, you don't want to give it a second thought? You don't want to consider this for a second before you smash this and hope it creates the storm you need? But his impulsiveness is something that is going to be really, really fun to explore. It was a great ending to the season. It was a great journey overall. I had so much fun with it. I have a couple of predictions as well. Oh, I forgot when I was talking about the magic, there are so many other cool elements to this world as well, like the fact that that one guy was able, the elf guy was able to take this arrow and tie a message to it and then shoot the arrow and then it turned into a bird. Magical elements like that are so cool and I love that they're in this world and I cannot wait for them to keep popping up. Okay, a couple of predictions. I'm not good at predictions. I don't typically have predictions for things, but I'll give you a couple of predictions real quick. So the king is still alive, for sure. I suspected this from the very beginning because even though the show is dark, I didn't expect them to show his death, but it was clear to me that there was an open door for the king not actually being alive, because the sorcerer had, not actually being dead, because the sorcerer had already shown us that he has the ability to remove a person's soul. I don't think he said soul, he probably said something else, from them and place it somewhere else, right? With that double-headed snake, he's already shown us that he has the ability to do that. So when the sorcerer fella went to the king and had that last conversation with him and like bowed down, and then he was gone, and then we didn't see the king again, even when Callum wanted to see the king, until he was dead, I thought, ooh, he probably removed the king's soul, right? And then later we see that he removed the elf's being soul. I don't know what he's removing. He removed that from the elf and he's keeping it in a stone. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume he did the same thing to the king, and the king is gonna somehow be able to come back at some point. That's my first prediction. Second, is this a prediction or is this a guess? More like a guess. I'm going to guess that the sorcerer fella is super old, and we're later gonna find out that he's stealing life from things, because there are quite a few hints practically telling us this is the case, although I'm bad at predictions, so maybe I'm wrong. Throughout the series. The prologue, is that what that's called in a show? The beginning, info dump, shows the guy who ruined everything. And he was old. Then, in the first episode, I think, or the second episode, we find out that that was the sorcerer fella. He was the one that broke the egg that destroyed everything. And he's quite a bit younger now. Then later, we see him stealing life from butterflies. So that was him in the prologue, right? That was the old guy was him. So he's probably really old. He probably has some sort of ability to manufacture immortality by stealing life from other things, like butterflies. Am I right? Don't tell me if I'm right. I actually want to find out on my own. But that's my assessment based off of clues that have been left. Anyway, this was a rambly gush about, I literally just finished the last episode right before I sat down to film, so I never really gave myself a chance to gather my thoughts. This is just kind of my reaction to season 1 of The Dragon Prince, and I loved it. The way I felt about Avatar, the first season, was this was fun. I enjoyed it. Cool setup, and it didn't become my new favorite series until season 2, and then that was solidified in season 3. So with The Dragon Prince, I don't expect it to surpass Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm not looking for it to do that. It's a completely separate thing, and that's fine. But the fact that I enjoyed the first season this much has me really excited for future seasons. Also really disappointed that I didn't put this off longer, because I don't get to just watch it all through like I did with Avatar and Korra. I actually have to wait for seasons to be released. What kind of madness, what kind of torture is that? But I am really excited for the next season. I'm gonna start season 2 right away. We're gonna keep discussing them if you want to, but I loved this first season. Anyway, those are my initial reactions / gush of season 1 of The Dragon Prince. I watched these 9 episodes over 3 days, which is very fast for me because I'm not a big TV person, but I really enjoyed this. So hopefully, if you guys liked the first gush, hopefully I'll be back at you soon with another one. Be sure to chat with me more about this in the comments. I post videos every Tuesday through Friday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.